the best time to plant a tree is yesterday, right? Because you've already planted it. The second best time is today, because why not? Because why not get started? Why not begin? Why not begin now? Fact of the matter is, I'm lonely. The fact of the matter is that I'm depressed. I have a lot of mental health issues, man. I think it's become a popular, maybe just accepted thing to say since the COVID-19 pandemic, that everybody has mental health issues, right? Everybody needs a Xanax. Everybody needs a therapist or a psychiatrist or, man, just somebody to talk to. Um, I guess one of the problems for me is that, and I've only seen a couple of therapists, right? And I'm not gonna lie, the first one was a young lady. She was probably younger than I am, very pretty young lady, very tall, taller than me. You can't tell because I'm sitting, but I'm only about 5'7", so I'm not a super tall guy. And she was tall, and she was just nice to talk to, man. She was still an intern, so she was still working. So working on her degree, working on getting experience. I'm willing to bet I was probably 5 to 10 years older than her. So that's the thing about being an egomaniac with a
Uh,
what's the saying, man?
I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex, right? That's me, man. That's me. That's me all day. That's I thought that quote was from Honey Boy. It is from Honey Boy, the movie. Which, if you've not seen Honey Boy, which was written by Shia LaBeouf, who also stars in it, who plays his own father, which is crazy. I can't even imagine playing my own father. Not to say it was probably an easy thing for him to go through or anything like that, but yeah, I used to think that quote was just from that movie. Come to find out, that quote's actually just that goes a long ways back into AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and all that sort of stuff. Point being that psychiatry therapy didn't go great for me for that. I think I was just using those meetings with her just to get out of my apartment, man. I guess I should tell you a little bit about myself. I work from home. I'm a insurance sales agent, so I guess that's something to start with. I'm not an entertainer, right? I'm not a celebrity. I'm not anybody. I've done well for myself in the last 4 years. I did very poorly for myself before that, which I'll probably get into all that stuff at some point during this podcast, because that's all part of it. I mean, this is about, at the end of the day, this is about me. And I guess my hope, my feeling inside, my true feeling, and I think I know this to be true, is that it's not just about me, it's about everybody. It's about all of you also. And maybe you'll find something in there that's helpful for you. So yeah, man, that first that first therapist, trying to remember her name. She had a very unusual name. But she was a very pretty Latin woman. And man, it's gonna bother me now. I can't remember her name. And I don't think that's because of the camera. I think it's just because I can't remember her name. It's been a long time since I've seen her. But yeah, man, it was just nice to have somebody to talk to. Another one of my favorite movies is The Whackness. All right, it's kind of a lesser known movie from like 2008 or 9 or something. But it's about a young man living in New York City who's doesn't have any friends, deals drugs to make money. He doesn't have a very good home life. His parents are kind of a mess. And it's about his relationship with a therapist, with an older guy who's got his own set of problems, his own set of issues, and they kind of become friends throughout the movie. And it's a really beautiful movie. If you can try to get past the first 10 minutes where it just kind of feels like this might just be some sort of dumb teenage comedy, but it's not. I promise you, there's a lot more going on in that movie than what's on the surface. And I remember why I was talking about The Whackness. Yeah. Oh, it's because that's what he says at the beginning of the film, because he sees this therapist, right? But it's primarily just he deals the therapist weed to get a few minutes of therapy. And he says early on, he's like, sometimes it's nice to have somebody to talk to. And that's how I felt about that young woman. The first therapist was it was just nice to have somebody to go and talk to. Somebody who I could talk to that I didn't have to worry about what it was I was going to say. I could literally just say whatever I want. I mean, I think, I think during one of those sessions, I asked her out, or I don't think I asked her out. I don't think I had the courage to ask her out. That's something I'm working on in my personal life, is the courage to talk to women in a meaningful way, in a way that interests them, that makes them interested in me as a potential suitor. Although dating a client, I don't think that was ever going to happen. But anyway, yeah, man, it was just nice to have somebody to talk to. It was just nice to have somebody to go and say all the things that go on in your head, and maybe you're embarrassed or you're afraid to say these things to people in your life, or maybe you say things to people in your life and they just don't say a goddamn thing back, because that happens too. Sometimes we have people in our life who are not capable of having open, thorough, deep, philosophical conversations with us about our lives, about our thoughts, about our dreams, about who we are, about who we want to be, about who we thought we were going to be in this life. And I have a saying, man, it's my mother's like that. Okay, I'll just say it, right? Because that's why I'm doing this podcast, is just to say the truth. My mother's like that, and I have a saying which goes, people can only meet you on the path as far as they've come themselves. Right? Like if you've gone 2 miles down the path, and somebody else that you've known for their whole life, and your whole life has only gone a mile down that path. And I'm not talking about age. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm not talking about monetary. I'm not talking about physical travel. I'm talking about, I guess, psychological travel. I'm talking about spiritual travel down the path, man. Because I mean, maybe some of you are like that. Maybe some of you just know people who are like that. Some people don't go on that path at all. Some people don't even know that that's a path. Some people don't even know that's what we're here doing, is going down this spiritual path. Trying to learn as much as we can about not even about the world, because I think you can only learn so much about the world, but about ourselves, about the way we interact with people, about what we're afraid of, about what we care about what's important to us. Yeah, man, and I think about, I used to get upset about it. I'm not gonna fucking lie, I still get upset about it. I got upset about it 2 days ago. We gotta tell the truth. So I got upset about it two days ago. I just got back. I currently reside in Miami, Florida. This is being recorded here in my studio in Miami, Florida, which is just my apartment. But I just got back, man. I grew up in the state of Oregon, Central Oregon area, Redmond Bend area. If you know Oregon at all, you'll know where that is. And I just got back from there. I went home for a month to see my mom, see my brother. I got to see one of my old friends, one of my oldest friends from way back. We just had a kid, which is a big deal. And yeah, man, I'm a super open guy. Okay, I like to talk, right? I mean, you're looking at it. That's why this podcast is even taking place right now, because I like to talk. I like to talk about ideas. I like to talk about my feelings. I like to talk about the future. I like to pull things apart, man. My relationships, maybe just something that's happening in the world, maybe something that's on TV, maybe just an idea that I found out about from a book or from a podcast or whatever. I like to sit and tear things apart. I think that's just because I'm a curious person, and there's a deep part of me that's still a little kid, man, and I feel like, I mean, maybe that's true for everybody. I can't speak for anybody but me. It makes me embarrassed sometimes to admit stuff like that, right? That, like, sometimes I don't feel that much different than I did when I was 15. Especially when I go back home and I'm finding myself literally physically back in some of the same places I have found myself when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, growing up in town. During one of the hardest parts of my life, my teenage years growing up. My parents got divorced when I was 13, so that was ugly. It wasn't one of those nice, pretty breakups where the family tries to stay together. The dad comes and, he tried, I guess, for like a few months. He tried to be that guy, coming to do the weekend lunches and whatever else. But that just wasn't his ultimate play. So he left, and my mom spiraled into a pretty nasty depression after that. My brother, my older brother, the only sibling I have, he left for college, that year. So it was really just me and my mom. Me at 15, 16, 17, 18, just trying to figure it out, just trying to survive. Watching my mom try to survive, watching her try to deal with the divorce and all that stuff. So, but yeah, man, I'm a curious person. I like to dig into things. I like to find out about things, and I like to talk about things. I think that's the best way to really get into, not only to really get into the depth and core of the subject matter, but also really find out how you feel about it. And it's awesome to have people who ask you questions, who not in a interrogative way, not in a way that they're trying to change your mind or try to convince you of something. People who ask you questions because they really just want to dig down to the bottom of what they think, of what you think, of what the ideas are that are out there. And man, I mean, my best relationships I've ever had were like that, where it was just me and her and a bottle of wine, or maybe a little bit of smoky smoke, a little bit of weed. Sometimes nothing at all. Maybe just a cup of coffee. Maybe just that afterglow after some really good sex. But just sitting, man, and just talking, and trying to get to the bottom of stuff, that you'll probably not get to the bottom of, right? Because who's getting to the bottom of anything, right? Like, I don't think we're getting to the bottom of anything here tonight, shooting this podcast, right? We're not trying to. We're just scratching around, digging around, and when you do that long enough, sometimes little pieces of gold, little diamonds fall out of the dirt that you're scratching around in. And that's the best, man. And that's that's the issue I have with not just with my mom, with my brother also, they don't do that. My mom doesn't dig on me. My mom's not the type of mom who calls me and wants to know everything, wants to know, like, how's your day going? How's your job going? How's your relationship going? Are you going to get married? Are you thinking about having kids? What do your next few months look like? What are you reading? What are you watching on TV? Just she doesn't do that. And my mom might send a text every couple of weeks, right? Just to let me know, just to say hi, just to let me know, and that's good, man, because that only started probably about 4 or 5 years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, whatever. The text messages. I mean, before that, it would sometimes be weeks and months that would go on when I wouldn't hear from her at all. Unless she wouldn't hear from me either. You know what? Because that stuff tends to be generational, right? It tends to roll on down that hill. And I think about my grandfather, her dad. My mom's mom died when she was real young. Also, I think when she was like 7, 8. And then my grandfather was he was a veteran. He fought in World War II. Stand-up guy. I don't have a lot of memories of my grandfather other than that he was always seemed like a very gentle, kind, good man. Always seemed to have fresh baked apple pie waiting for us when we show up in Roseburg to summer visits and stuff. But the point is that my mom didn't sit and talk to my grandpa on the phone for hours and hours at a time. I think he probably called maybe twice a year. If she called him, I don't know. I don't know. But I think it was probably 2, 3 times a year that they would get on the phone. We would try to get up there and visit him, every other year, sometimes every year, just depending. But even when you visit somebody every year, man, even when it seems like that contact, that communication, that relationship is there, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just, hey, how you doing? How was the drive? You want some apple pie? It's not, how's the marriage going? How are the kids doing in school? How are your plans for the future? How are you feeling? How's your heart today? How's your heart doing? And I know they didn't have those conversations, man. So I love my mom to death. There were periods, times in my life where I really resented her for all that. Where I'd sometimes get really, really mad. Sometimes I'd get so mad I'd be like, I'm never coming home. I'm never going back to visit. I'm not gonna call. I ain't even gonna send a birthday card. I'm not doing anything. Why do for other people when they won't do for you, right? Why am I gonna show up for someone who doesn't call me and ask me where my heart's at, where how I'm feeling today? I've been in and out of a relationship with a woman for like the last 8 years, up and down, breaking up, getting back together, getting engaged, breaking off again, talking about having kids. And she and I broke up again like 3 months ago, roundabout now. My mom didn't ask me at all about that. I didn't tell her. I guess she doesn't know, right? So how's she supposed to know? She can't know what she doesn't know. But she didn't ask me about my relationship at all, right? She didn't ask me how Elena and I are doing at all. So how's she gonna find out, right? Unless I just come out and just start. Unless I come out and just start talking, but you find after a while that just leads you into kind of a pit with certain people, man. Like, you can't squeeze blood from a stone, but you can still put that stone around your campfire. Okay. And this is me talking to me right now. Because I never thought of that before. I never thought of those words before in that order. And that's what I do, man. That's what I do with my mom. I'm not trying to get blood out of that stone anymore, because it just leads me to places where I feel intense pain, intense loneliness, intense longing for that kind of a relationship. The ironic thing is that my mom always used to say, especially after the divorce with my father, she always used to say, especially when in her sadder moments, in her more down moments, all I ever wanted was a family. Like those big families on TV, like on Full House, like we used to watch when I was growing up. They all sit around the tree together and have Christmas. They have Thanksgiving. They celebrate their wins and their losses together. I feel that when she would say that, man. And as a kid, like, as a teenager, what I used to think about when she would say stuff like that to me, or when I'd hear her in those modes, is like, well, I'll do it. I'll do so much that you don't even have to think about that anymore. You don't have to think about that ever again. My mom never probably made more than $50,000 a year her whole life. She was a newspaper writer in Central Oregon. Dave, my father, he also was a newspaper writer. Neither of them made a lot of money, although money went a little bit further back there in the 80s and 90s. Definitely. And we never wanted for anything, man. I'm not sitting here saying we grew up poor or anything like that, but we definitely grew up riding that line, ride across that line. And after the divorce, I think that changed the situation for my mom quite a bit. Where it was just her, it was just her. And so I said, look, I'm gonna go to a film school, and I'm gonna be the next George Lucas. I'm gonna sell screenplays for millions of dollars, and I'm gonna take you out of this place and show you the world and show you all the things you never got to see before. And that was how I responded to all that. But it's funny now, all these years later, when I look back at all that. Because she said it my first week back at home. This last trip I was on, it was about something else. It wasn't about the divorce at that point. It was about something different. But she was saying, all she ever wanted was to be included. All she ever wanted was to have a family, the family that loved her, that was there for her, that she felt like she was part of something. like my older brother, he's married. His wife has 2 kids from her previous marriage. And my mom, man, at least she wants to treat those 2 kids like they're her grandkids, like she wants to connect with them. She wants to feel like she's part of their lives. And I get that, I do get that. But what made me angry, man, is when she said it to me this last time. Because, man, I mean, I'm 37 years old, and I want that too. And for me, it's fucked up because I want it 2 ways. I want it for myself now. I want a wife, and I want kids, and I want a house, and I want that solidarity, that trust, that foundational love that comes from being in a household with somebody who you've committed to, who you've created lives with, new lives that are running around making messes around you. Man, I want that. And for a long time I didn't know if I wanted that, right? I think I've only really known that for maybe like a year and a half, since I paid off my debts. But I want that, so I want that for me, for the future, which at 37, man, I'm not gonna lie, like that seems, that I feel like that possibility for that is crunching down. It's getting smaller and smaller as the time goes by. But I also want it for me in the past, right? Like, I wanted that too when I was a kid, man. I wanted a family. I wanted a family that I felt like was together on the holiday, and we had that, man. I'm not gonna sit here and say we didn't. There were a few real good Christmases and Thanksgivings that I can remember. I want to say it was like Nintendo 64 Christmas. I'd have to look up when that thing got released. I want to say it was like 94, 95. But I feel like that was a good Christmas, because I remember sitting around together after the present opening. I had a controller. My brother had a controller. I think my dad was there playing too. We were playing Mario Kart or something. And yeah, like that was good, That was good. That felt good. That felt right. I only saw my parents kiss one time my whole life. They got divorced when I was 13, but I only saw them kiss one time. That whole time. When I was real little. I feel that probably means something too, I mean, I guess it definitely means something, the way it went. But what I was saying, I wanted that too. I wanted a family I could come back home to after leaving for college or for whatever it was I was going to go off and do. I come back and maybe mom's working on this stuff out in the yard, and those damn deer keep eating all of her lettuce plants, something. Dad's still working on promotion at work, trying to get that next thing before he retires. Well, he works on the truck in the garage and keeps up with the house and takes mom to her doctor's appointments, stuff like that, And I look at my friends, right? And I got friends who have that. I got friends who have parents who are like that. And I guess nothing's perfect, right? I got friends who have both parents who still have businesses and still do well together and all that, but they got their own problems, right? Life's not easy, Life's not easy. But I'll get angry sometimes, man. I got angry with my mom 3 weeks ago when she said that to me. And it wasn't directed at me, it was directed at other people who she felt sometimes cut her out of things, you know what I mean? Like, story of her life, I guess, story of my life to an extent as well. But I got real mad inside, man, and I had to walk outside and I had to sit down outside and just take some breaths and just be on my own and let a few tears fall, right? Because fuck, that's what happened. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like that's not what happened, man, because that's what happened. I went outside and I cried to myself for a little bit because I'm like, I hear you, Mom. I hear you at 71 being like, all I ever wanted was a family. But sometimes I feel like you don't see me at 37 saying all I ever wanted was a family too. And I didn't get that either. And man, when she and my ex Can't call him an ex-dad, you know? It's the only dad I ever knew. These are my adoptive parents, I guess I should mention. I mean, I was adopted at 3 months old. Not that that matters to me, because it's the only parents I've ever known, these two people. But yeah, man, when they got divorced when I was 13, I went into man of the house mode, you know? My older brother was leaving for college the next year. It was my job. It was my job to be the strong male. And I mean, I don't know how much of a job I did at that. My high school years were no good. I don't think. I don't really remember a lot of them. I remember feeling awkward. I remember all the confidence that I'd built up when I was in middle school just kind of fucking draining out of me like a sieve. It was like, because I was a real confident guy in middle school. And I know that's kind of like, who gives a shit about middle school? And that's what I say when I talk about feeling like sometimes like I'm still trapped, like I'm still a kid. My glory years were 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I know that might sound fucking sad to some people, but that's the truth, man. That's the truth of it. Something happened to me in puberty. I just didn't give a shit anymore. And in a good way, in a way that I'm like, I'm going to say the joke that I think's funny on the top of my head. I'm just going to say it to whoever's standing there. I ran for student body president 7th and 8th grade years and won both years. I played sports I wasn't good at because I didn't care, because I wanted to be on the field. I wanted to feel some glory. You know, I was in the popular circles and all that stuff, man. And then the divorce happened when I was 13, you know, the summer before 8th grade. I guess it was the winter of my 7th grade year. Yeah, man, it was like trying to hold on all that popularity, that good feeling, all that positive energy, that confidence that I had. It was like holding on to sand, squeezing it. And through 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, it just, you know, by graduation, I was like, fuck, where did it all go, man? It's all over the fucking ground. Some of it's gone. Some of it got blown away. It's gone. It's gone completely. And I just don't think I ever got it back, you know? I don't think I ever got it back. But I wasn't afraid to talk back then, you know? My favorite things back then were the pep assemblies and doing the morning announcements, because I just like talking. I like connecting with people. And I guess that's why I'm here right now. Because, you know, man, I spend a lot of time by myself. Pretty much all of my time by myself, man. And sometimes I feel like, you know, I talk to myself. I'll just admit it, you know. Basically what I'm doing right now, I will do by myself. It's a process I think I go through to help me try to process ideas and process my life and analyze my life and my actions and what I'm doing and how they're affecting me. It's how I try to improve. You know, I feel like when I'm doing this more often, it means I'm trying. It means that I'm after something, that I'm not just spinning my wheels, that I'm not just going along, that I'm not inching towards my next relapse, you know? And I've been struggling, man. I've been struggling hard because I'm a drug addict. It's like that quote, man. That's what I was saying. I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. I love that line. You know, I saw that movie Honey Boy in theaters when it was released, and it was a very small theatrical release. So I was lucky to get to see it here in Miami, Florida, because that's one of the best movies I've ever fucking seen in my life. I hope Shia keeps writing and keeps directing, because that was actually, I don't think he did not direct it. I apologize. There's another director, but he did write the thing. It was from him. It was from his soul, and that shit is so real, man. That movie is so fucking real when it comes to internal strife, when it comes to addiction and depression and anger, and how we let these things just kind of bubble up over us and take control sometimes and fuck us up in the worst ways. And he said it in that movie. And the first time he says it, I mean, the only time he says it, he's saying it to a therapist, and he's throwing it at her, you know? Like, what do you want from me? What do you want me to do? I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. Almost like he's trying to say, like, this is my excuse for being the way that I am. And I get that. I totally get that. Because all that shit I just got done talking about with the divorce, with feeling alone, with feeling like I don't have family members to connect to, or who dig into me, who want to connect with me or see me like that. You know, that's where all my anger comes from. That's where all that comes from for me. You know? And those are the things that make me want to use. Those are the things that make me want to use the most. When I feel like I'm alone. When I feel like... So for me, it's like... Let me just tell you right now what I'm, you know, my DOCs, okay? For me, it's amphetamines and speed and cocaine. I became addicted to them just when I graduated college, which I was like 21. So I was like 2009, 2010-ish. I was introduced to cocaine in Orlando, Florida. Man, this is let's just tell stories, right? Because fuck, we're here to tell stories. So I was going to a school called Full Sail University, which is in Winter Park, Florida, which is basically Orlando, Florida. It's just like the nicer part of Orlando, Winter Park. It's a film... It's a media arts school. I went for film and TV production. Okay, I have a bachelor's degree in film and TV, which is why all this looks so nice, right? Because I lit the fuck out of it. But anyway, so reverse that back to high school. Okay, I was dating the same girl all through high school. Her name was Tanya, beautiful young lady, one of the coolest chicks ever. Still one of the coolest chicks ever. Has her own waffle business, like a traveling waffle business in Colorado, which is extremely successful, and nothing so proud of her for what she's done with her life. But we dated all through high school. My depression and anger and angst and yada 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 kind of came to a head there after graduation, and we broke up. You know, we broke up, and spent about a year in Redmond, Oregon, just kind of spinning my wheels. And then I went to Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida. Because again, like I said, my way of dealing with the divorce and my mom's depression and my feelings of inadequacy and inferiority was to say, look, I'm going to go and become a film writer, a film creator. I'm going to be a director. I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to do all the things that have been done before me by men like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? That was my way of dealing with all of those psychological issues. Was that the smartest way to deal with them? No. You know what I mean? No. I wish I had someone there to give me better advice back then, because it would have saved me a whole lot of pain that I went through my 20s. But it also may have detracted from the experiences I had throughout my 20s. So, hey, you can't go back. You can only go forward, right? So no regrets. But that school was about 70 grand in tuition for a 21-month program, which is bullshit. But all I wanted to do was get my degree so I believed that I needed a degree in order to go work in the film and video industry. You don't, okay? At least then you didn't. You know, I could have moved to Los Angeles and just gotten started. But I believed I needed this degree, so I went and I signed up for all the student loans, okay? And all the massive student loan interest rates and all that other stuff that went with it that I did not understand. You could not have asked me to explain an interest rate. You know what I mean? I would have been like, it's money you owe back. And that would have been enough for me, but that was not my understanding, especially of a variable interest rate. Not understanding that and still signing the paper is like one of the dumbest things I ever did in my life, without question. But that's what I did. And so I went to film school. Film school was kind of a repeat of high school for me in terms of like social ineptitude because I was just so awkward. Honestly, all I wanted to do was smoke weed and be by myself and think about screenwriting and think about filmmaking. I had a massive chip on my shoulder where I just felt like a lot of the stuff that I'm learning and a lot of these people around me are beneath me. and I just need to get this degree so I can move on and do my thing, right? So anyway, while going to college, because I was so broke, I got a job at a seafood restaurant. And I have this plan leading up to graduation, right? It's a 21-month course, and we're at month maybe 18 when I start dating this bartender at the restaurant. She's 35, okay, and I'm 21. Immediate red flag for anybody with any level of maturity or understanding. But I didn't have any of that. And I didn't have any friends to give me good advice. So for me, I'm just like, this really hot 35-year-old seems to have something for me. And I've had pretty much zero female attention my entire time at college for the year, for like the 6 months before I went to college also. So I'm just like, I'm chomping at the bit. I'm willing to take whatever is being offered to me. And she was a very attractive woman and very alluring. And the idea of having, and I had this mother hero savior complex. The two women I dated before her were also single mothers, as she was. So I had this thing in me where like, I'm going to save all the moms who got divorced. You know what I mean? Who had kids. I wonder where that came from. Anyway, so we started dating, and come to find out, she's a cocaine dealer. Huh? Weird. And that's new, and that's exciting, and kind of terrifying. And against my better judgment, I got into cocaine through her. That relationship didn't last, obviously. What a surprise. As Jim Cornette would say, look who won the pony on that one. She had her cousin come and live with us because we moved in together. And maybe 4 weeks into that, I come home one night to find the two of them in his bedroom. And later to come to find out that he was not her cousin. He was just the dude that she was kind of like messing around with. So exited stage left immediately on that. Luckily didn't lose my shirt and skin because I didn't sign any paperwork for that house or the apartment. So I was pretty much scot-free to get it to escape. But I had spent a substantial amount of my savings on that whole experience and was kind of in a bad spot. So while the woman left, the drugs certainly didn't. That was just the beginning of my odyssey with cocaine and addiction. We'll probably talk more about that as we proceed forward on this podcast, because fast forward, right? That was 2009. It is 2025, and I am still a drug addict. I have it under control. Right now, I am looking at 8 months. Yeah, just over 8 months of solid sobriety from amphetamines and speed. And for me, it's not just amphetamines and speed. It is amphetamines and speed interconnected with pornography use. Okay, I currently have, I probably should have written this down. It's 120 plus days of semen retention. Okay. Time since my last point where I looked at pornographic materials, not that long ago, which I'm not proud of, but we're all a work in progress here. So we're all trying to do better every day. And yeah, man, I've been struggling the past few days. I'm not going to lie. It is September 1st, 2025 today, and I have the entire month off from my regular job. I'm very grateful because I work in a business for a company that gives time off like that. And maybe it's just the timing, man. Maybe it's just the timing of going home to Oregon, seeing my family, trying, as I usually do, to make connections with my family, with my mom, with my brother. Connections that are more than just the basic, hey, how are you? How's your day? What time do you have to get up tomorrow to go to work? You know, just basic, like, everyday stuff, like more deep down integrated human stuff, which are all failures, every last one of them. And I tried to interconnect with a friend of mine who I've known for a very long time, who he and I don't have the best relationship just because we don't see each other. We haven't lived in the same city in, God, almost 20 years. Say, okay, so there's no harm or foul there, but I do feel like I tried to make connections with that person also, which were unmet. Some of the other people I tried to make connections with, I feel like they were kind of too spun up into their own lives and own bullshit to really get interconnected with me and my life, which is fine because everybody's their own person and nobody owes me anything or knows anybody anything. So it's totally cool. Needless to say, at the end of that 4-week vacation, I felt more run down and weak than I did before I'd gone out there. And I hadn't been feeling good before I'd gone out there because, as I said, I had a breakup with my girlfriend about 3 months ago that I'm still processing, still going through. So yeah, just there we were. And then coming back, I'm just gonna talk about everything because fuck, why not? My mind has literally been spinning this entire time coming back, thinking about stuff. Thinking about how to drive down that lonely feeling, man. Thinking about how to bridge the gap of that feeling of not connecting with people who you care about. Because I do. I love my mom and I love my brother. And I love those people who I talked about, even if they don't love me or know me like I used to. And maybe that's sad, because I don't have other connections that I've built in my life. Or maybe I've just let the connections that I've had in my 20s and 30s kind of die and kind of go quiet a little bit. But I love those people, man. I love those people a lot. And it's a bad feeling when you start crying in front of your mother because of something you guys are talking about or something that was said or something you're just going through yourself. And she can't even look at you, Or you try to talk to your brother about something meaningful and he gets on his phone, Just gets on his phone. Or a friend who you want to connect with and have a meaningful moment with, and they don't seem to have the time or the interest, right? Too distracted, too many other things going on. So a guy like me, who, because I got this circuitry, right? I got this circuitry in the back of my fucking brain where if I'm feeling bad, if I'm feeling stressed, if I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling disconnected, if I'm feeling lonely, you can always go back to porn and speed, man. Because if you've done cocaine or if you've taken Adderall or if you drank a real strong enough cup of coffee, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You get this synergistic wave of connected energy, man. You can connect with goddamn anything with that, I'm gonna connect with this cup. I'm gonna study this cup for 6 hours. The little curves on it, the way they printed the little thing on it, the way it holds look at the way is the water exactly even? I don't know. Maybe I'll get a level. I'll spend an hour pulling the level out of my ruler that's in there, and maybe I can make a little boat, and I could put that boat in there, and I could put the level on it. Just because I'm not sure if it's level in there or not, but we can find out, right? I can get interconnected with this cup, man. And they call it stim fapping now. They call it gooning, although that's kind of a different thing, but not really. Not really. If you know what I'm talking about, it's not different. It's the same. And I worry, man. I worry about the youth of today with not just the number of kids who are on attention deficit medications or amphetamine medications, but just the availability of them. Because even if you don't have a script for them, you probably know a buddy at school, or you got a buddy who knows a buddy at school, or a buddy who knows a buddy who he works with at the gas station who has a script, who has access to these drugs. And that for me, man, if it was just cocaine when I was in my 20s, that might have been easier to get away from. Because eventually you just meet people, eventually you just start doing other things, eventually life just happens and you're just like, I don't have time for that, But when you interconnect those speed drugs with pornography, man, it is like it is like a rocket ship taking off in your head, man. It is a rocket ship of feeling and integrate and closeness. It's fake intimacy, but your brain, because your brain can't really tell the difference between real sex and pornography, other than tactile sensation, the brain part, the part that floods your different not a fucking neuroscientist, that floods your mind with dopamine and feel good chemicals, and then afterwards when you have an orgasm or ejaculate, that floods your brain with oxytocin, or the chemical that's supposed to make you feel interconnected with the person you just had sex with. When all that's happening, the addition of speed in there, man, it's like pouring gasoline onto a bonfire, man. We're pouring gasoline onto a pile of TNT and throwing a match on there. That's literally what it's like happening inside your brain. I've never experienced anything quite as intense as it. And you can get locked in there, man, for 10, 12, 15, 20 hours, even more, depending on how crazy you are or how into the experience you are. You know, man, and that's where my brain starts thinking. That's where my brain starts to go to. That's where my brain's been going to for the past 3 days. And the lead up to coming back, and the lead up to the end of the relationship. And the last day, man, of my trip home, the last day, I took a drive to this town it's like 30 minutes away from my hometown. And I usually do this. Towards the end of the trip, I go to buy fudge, okay? Because they got the best fudge in this place. It's called Sisters, Oregon. If you know where Sisters, Oregon is, they have the best fudge there, period, that I've ever had in my life. So, and I usually get some. It's usually not for me. It's usually I get some for my mom, and I get some for Elena, which is the ex-girlfriend, the girl I've been dating for the last 8 years. I get some for them, right, to give to them. Sometimes I get a little bit for myself, but it's more for them. So I was going to do that. I also wanted to go and pick up some stuff to do some work in my mom's yard before I left. Just a couple of nice things to put in there before I left. And I'm like halfway there, and I just start crying. I just get overwhelmed with this emotion. So overwhelmed with crying and stuff that I got to pull over to the side of the road and like try to catch myself. I got angry. You know, when I realized what it was that was bothering me. And it was the realization that, hey man, your flight is tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. What are the odds that between now and then that anybody, your mom, your brother, these other people you wanted to connect with, that any of them gives you a feeling of interconnectedness, of belonging, of a feeling like you belong? And the answer was 0. The answer was there's 0 chance of that happening. It will not happen. You might get a hug from mom. You might get a nice word of thank you for coming, thank you for being here. But none of those people is going to dig into your heart and your soul and your spirit and ask you the questions that you want someone to ask you. No one's gonna open up and have the conversations with you that you want to have, that you need to have, that you feel like you need to have. And I'm having that fucking conversation right now with you, with the world, I guess, because I need it, because I fucking need it, man. I think we all fucking need it, and maybe that's why I'm doing this, because maybe you need it too, right? Maybe you need it too. So here I am, and here you are, and here we are talking. And so I pulled over and I started crying. I got real upset, you know, and I'm like, man, why do I feel so down? Why do I feel so shitty? Why do I feel so bad? And because I've been learning about all this stuff, I've been trying to teach myself, been listening to a lot of Tim Fletcher information podcasts. He's got a great YouTube about complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm learning more about the way my brain functions. And I think learning more about the way the brain functions, the triggers and what the trigger leads to and what that leads to, and then the recourse if you give into those triggers and what comes from that. Learning these cycles and these patterns about yourself, I mean, I think it's the only way to break those patterns, you know, really. And so I figured it out pretty quick. I'm like, yeah, man, you're really upset because you're not going to get anything of what you wanted from this visit home. As far as connection, as far as that level of a connection with one of these people. And then I got angry. And I got angry because I realized you're only going to get this fudge, and you're only going to get these little LED solar powered lights for the yard, and hanging flowers for my mom's hanging garden. You're only doing this because you think that if you do these things, then you'll earn that connection. You'll earn love. You'll earn that respect. Not even respect. Respect's the wrong word, because I think these people do respect me. You'll earn the connection. You'll earn the love. You'll earn the feeling of belonging. But you won't. But you won't, and you know you won't. Man, that made me so mad, you know. So mad that I turned around, right? I turned the fucking car around, and I'm like, I'm not going to get this fudge. Fuck this fudge. Get your own fudge. Where's my fudge, right? Where's my fudge? Who's bringing me fudge? Who's thinking about me and my sweet tooth, huh? The answer is nobody, you know? The answer was nobody. But you know what the truth is, man? The truth is there's a bag back there of fudge. And it's for Elena. There's a couple pieces for me, but most of it's for Elena. The fact of the matter is there's a few pieces of fudge sitting in my mom's house right now on her kitchen table. The fact of the matter is I put those stand lights in her front yard, man. And I hung those hanging flowers in front of her house and on the back porch, so that right at the perfect angle where she sits at the table so she can see them every day. The fact is I did it. Even though I turned around angry, saying, fuck all that, man. I ain't getting nobody fudge. I ain't getting nobody flowers. I ain't getting anybody lights. Where are my lights, you know? Even though that happened, I turned around again and I drove out there and I got that fudge, man. Because it's something I'm learning about. It's called integration. And it's a concept that I've heard of before, but I did not understand, you know? Because I think you really got to know yourself. You got to know your triggers. You got to know your pitfalls. You got to know who you are to understand what integration means. So integration, it's the process, right, of combining and unifying different aspects of a person's experience, their thoughts, their emotions, taking these separate parts, right, and trying to integrate them into one conducive whole thing. And the way I was acting there, the way I was reacting there, they represent the two sides of me that seem like they're constantly at war with each other within my psyche, within my mind, within my soul. The two sides of me, there's this overworked madman protector, and that's that 17-year-old kid who in that first Christmas after the divorce, he walked in and saw his mom sitting by herself in the living room hugging a teddy bear while it was snowing outside, in perfect Christmas view with the tree lit up and the ornaments hung. That mom who looked me in the eye with tears in her eyes and just said, "Doesn't really feel like Christmas right now, does it, Tristan?" And that turned that kid into an overworked madman protector, man. You know, this guy who's like, fuck all of that. I'm going to go out and I'm going to grind and I'm going to grind and I'm going to grind so I can bring something home so that this woman doesn't have to feel like that. So that I don't have to feel like that. Because, man, it was her feeling that nobody loves her, that she's not interconnected, that she doesn't have that big family to rely on to be there for her. It caused her to feel like that. And like I said, man, that shit rolls down that hill, you know, and I'm that next bump down that hill from her. And so that created that feeling inside of me too. And so that's that first side, that overworked madman protector who generally just feels like he's got to go and do this or do that, do these extra things in order to get love, in order for people to love and appreciate and see him. And then there's the other person. And he's angry at the world, man. He's just pissed off. He says, fuck you and fuck you and fuck you for not loving me, for not accepting me, for not making me feel like I'm part of it. And he takes that anger and he rolls it into pleasure. And he says, fuck y'all. Y'all weren't there for me. Y'all ain't gonna be there for me. I'm not gonna be there for y'all. I'm not even gonna be there for me. I'm going to be there for the part of me that's the worst part, the part of me that just wants that instantaneous pleasure, that just wants to forget, that just wants to let himself melt off into hedonism, into cocaine use, into pornography, into doing drugs and going to strip clubs and just being like that, you know, just being like that. The pleasure working, irresponsible part of me who's angry. You got these two sides of you, man. These two sides of you. And maybe it's true, you know? Maybe it's true that the first person who's driving out there to get that fudge and get those things for the yard, that was the overworked madman protector version of me who was going to do that. Because he's like, man, it's the last day. I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go do this. And then she's going to love me. And then she's going to ask me about my relationships, my problems, my life, how I feel and how my heart is. Right? There's that guy. He was like, I'm just going to go do it. And when I pulled over on the side of the road, the other guy took over. The pleasure-seeking, irresponsible friend who's got really bad anger issues, who said, fuck that guy. He went over and he said, boom, no, we're going to go. We're going to take control. We're going to say, fuck all that. We're not going to do anything for anybody. We're going to start thinking about us. We're going to start thinking about us and what's going to make us happy. What we're going to do for us when we get back to Miami. And maybe that's drugs, and maybe that's strip clubs, and maybe that's pornography, and maybe that's being all those things, those degenerate things that I used to really go into, you know, without a second thought in my 20s. But something beautiful happened right there, man. And it was when that happened that I started to, I think it's the first time, it's got to be the first time that I really understood the word integration. And it's a word I've been seeing. It's a word I've heard people I respect talk about. It was the first time I really understood what it means. Because I still went. And I still got that fudge, and I still went and I bought those lights and I bought those flowers and I did all of that. You know why I did it? I did it for me. I did it because it was what I wanted to do. I did it knowing that coming home and giving my mom some of that fudge and putting in those lights and hanging those flowers, that it didn't mean she was going to all of a sudden say, Tristan, let's sit down and talk about your relationship with Elena and how that's going. Or about your job, or how you're feeling about your career, or about how lonely you get sometimes. I knew it didn't mean that. But I did it anyway. Because I love that woman. And I wanted to do something nice for her. It was about me, and it wasn't about me, you know? It was about doing something I wanted to do. Not to get a result, not to get love, not to earn something. Because she's my mom. She's the only mom I know. And I may not be able to pull or squeeze blood out of that rock, but that rock's sitting there in my bonfire, man, and it's always going to be there because I love that rock. So I did it, and I felt good about it. You know, and when the sun went down, man, and I went outside in front of the house and I stood there and I looked at those new lights I'd put in, and I could see the flowers hanging on the thing in the back. You know, it made me feel good, made me feel happy, and I felt something knowing that I didn't do it because I'm trying to earn something. But I did it because I wanted to. I did it because I wanted to show my love for somebody else. You know, and sometimes that can be good enough, right? Sometimes that's good enough. Not to say that it was, man, you know, because I mean, I've been struggling since then, thinking about thinking about abusing myself, thinking about breaking down. But the thing that keeps me here now talking is the fact that I know where that leads to. I know what happens if I give in to that, if I use. And I know the feeling that comes after it. And I don't want that, man. I want a life, you know. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be respectable. I want to be a good man, not for anybody else, but for me. I want to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, you're still good. You're still a good man. I can respect you. You're making the decisions that are meaningful for you. And that's what I want to talk about today, man. I just want to talk about integration. I want to talk about who I am a little bit. You know, there's a lot more. There's just the first episode. But I'm trying to keep these tight. You know, I'm trying to keep them close to an hour and 15 or under. So we're pushing an hour right now. And I got a lot more I want to talk about, and I will talk about it, because we're not even close to done. We're just getting started here. But I'm not cured, man. I mean, shit, I was thinking about using this morning. I woke up thinking about it. There's nothing stopping me. I got money. I got space. I got time. I got connects. I got everything I could need to go use. And in the past, man, nothing would have stopped me. Nothing would have stopped me from going out and doing it. But something feels different right now. Something feels different inside. I got a lot of respect for Theo Von, man. I feel like he's doing some real good work right now, and some of the podcasts he's done in the past couple of years have really helped me a lot. They really helped me a lot. And something that he talks about, you know, he's not trying to be sober forever, because that's scary and that feels impossible. He's trying to be sober for right now, for today. And that's what I'm doing, man. That's what I'm doing. And it's 9:15 here on the East Coast, so it's almost another full day. And man, every day I stay true to myself and stay sober and stay on my path and doing good. That's another win. It's another win for me. That's all I want. So I've been thinking about doing this podcast for a long time. And I've had a lot of ideas about things I'd want to do during these podcasts. And we're just going to do one right now. This is called the Bhagavad Gita. This particular version was translated by Eknath Eswaran. I'm probably not saying that name right, but that's what it looks like. So I have read this entire book. I need to read it again because it is very complex. It's more like a poem, like a really long poem than it is a book. But one of my favorite movies of all time is based off of this book. That movie is The Legend of Bagger Vance, starring Matt Damon and Will Smith, and directed by Robert Redford. And it is a golf movie, but it is not a golf movie. It is a movie about spirituality, about life. It is a retelling of this story in the form of a sports golf movie set in the 1930s, I think. Fascinating stuff. And But what I want to do right now, I'm gonna open this up. I'm gonna go to a random spot. And I'm just gonna read it. And we'll see if we can draw some meaning out of it. Let's go. Okay. This is Self-Realization, Chapter 2, page 91, paragraph 23. The self cannot be pierced by weapons or burned by fire. Water cannot wet it, nor can the wind dry it. The self cannot be pierced or burned, made wet or dry. It is everlasting and infinite, standing on the motionless foundations of eternity. The self is unmanifested, beyond all thought, beyond all change. Knowing this, you should not grieve. What's he saying here? I guess they're just saying that the self is eternal, is forever. Can't hurt it. Maybe he's saying all these things that we deal with, right, man, you know? Getting burned, getting hurt, getting lied to, lying to yourself, hurting yourself, burning yourself up. Man, that person who took your parking spot at the grocery store and flipped you off when you said something, when you beeped at them, you know? Stuff like that, man. It might hurt the ego, you know, the external shell, but those things cannot touch the self. And knowing this, you should not grieve. I guess knowing that part of you, that core part that goes on forever and ever, that it can't be hurt by anything. You know, I guess that might be a good way to find maybe something you could use to attenuate your frustration and anger and basically just emotional reactions to the external world, you know? Knowing thyself, knowing that you're more, knowing that you're infinite. Makes me think of that movie, which is based off of a book. I gotta try to remember what it was. I can think of it. I'm gonna find it because I know the main character who's in it, and he's only been in a few movies. He's probably not gonna do any more. The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Excuse me. Perks of Being a Wallflower. Hermione, right? The actress who plays Hermione in Harry Potter series. It's embarrassing. I can't think of these people's names and stuff right now, but that's what she says, right? When she stands up on the back of the truck and going across the bridge. She felt infinite, you know? That's how I want to feel. I want to feel infinite. You know, you can't feel infinite when you're burning yourself down. I think you start to feel more and more infinite when you challenge yourself to be better, to not give in, to not give in to the wrong things, but to give in to the right things, like doing this podcast, right? Going to the gym, eating healthy, reading a book instead of sitting down to watch that next episode of TV show. And don't get me wrong, I love TV and movies, right? But I try to make sure I'm reading at least for 15 minutes every day, just to kind of like keep a little balance in there, you know? A little of this, a little of that. But when you do that, right? When you challenge yourself to do the good things, the things that are meaningful, the things that are hard today but will make you a better person tomorrow, which is my definition of discipline. I mean, I guess it's the general definition of discipline, but it's the one that I like to keep right there in the forefront of my mind, especially when there's something coming up that I don't really want to do, when there's something else that I'm thinking about doing that is easier, that doesn't require effort or a lot of work, that honestly won't lead to much of a payoff or anything super positive in terms of evolution or transformation or change in my life, versus doing the things that are not only difficult, but are like It's like building a house out of Legos, you know? And in this day and age, especially for someone like myself, who is an egomaniac with a inferiority complex, and the egomaniac part means that my ego would like to be fed. It is like a hungry dog, constantly barking and scratching at the door, asking for that next feeding. That is me. That is my ego. And when you're building that little brick house, when you're building that house with Legos, at the beginning, people are either going to think you're crazy or they're just going to ignore you. Okay? And for an egomaniac, that's a tough place to be in. But committing to that, that's almost more courageous than committing to the easy things that give you that feeling of recognition and love immediately, like drugs and pornography, and paying for sex. So, yeah, we're getting close to the mark. This has been Reclaim Your Moment, podcast episode 101. Why is this thing called Reclaim Your Moment? It's a concept and idea I came up with a long time ago. And maybe I'll get more into that tomorrow. But this is your moment right now. Whatever one it is that you're in. And tonight I either could have used drugs and pornography, or I could have done something courageous. And that's reclaiming your moment. One moment at a time. Until your life is nothing but a continuous moment that's yours. I guess they call that life. I guess they call that life, man. Thank you for joining me, and have a great day.